Abilene High's great football tradition, which includes 7 state championships, began in the 1920s, and the Smith brothers were a big part of the Eagles' early success. Altman Smith, the oldest of the 3 Smith brothers, led Abilene High to consecutive state championship game appearances. He scored a fourth-quarter touchdown in the 1927 title game, only to see Waco rally for a 21-14 victory. Altman was the captain of the 1928 state championship team that finished 12-0-1. The Eagles posted 3 shutouts in 1928 and outscored their opponents 410-71. They set a record by scoring the first time they got the ball against each of their 13 opponents. In the 1928 title game, Altman rushed for 252 yards and scored 3 touchdowns in the Eagles' 38-0 win over Port Arthur. He was named the All-State fullback and went on to play football at Texas A&M. In 2005, Altman was inducted into the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame in Waco. In 1968, legendary Associated Press sports writer Harold Ratliff named Smith as one of the top 12 backs on his all-time team in Dave Campbell's Texas Football magazine. Altman and his wife, Marcelle Hampton, who was also an Abilene High graduate, lived in Corpus Christi before retiring to Clyde. They had one son, Altman Smith Jr. Jack Smith, the middle Smith brother, was also a member of the 1928 state championship football team. He was the leading scorer on the Eagles basketball team, and as a senior captained the track team. He won first place in the 120-yard high hurdles, the 800-yard run, and the high jump at the district track meet. He was also president of the National Honor Society. While attending Hardin-Simmons, he was contacted by the coach of the Cosden Oilers, a team sponsored by the Cosden Refinery in Big Spring, to become both a basketball and baseball team member. For 2 years, Jack traveled on weekends from his home in Abilene to Big Spring to play in baseball and basketball tournaments, playing against the best teams in West Texas, including some semi-pro teams. He then joined Cosden as a full-time employee and spent 43 years with Cosden, which at one time was the largest inland refinery in the United States, before retiring in 1976. In 1932, Jack married his high school sweetheart, Edna Faye Rutledge. They had 2 children, Jacqueline Smith McKnight and Steve Smith. Stanley Smith, the youngest of the 3 Smith brothers, was captain and all-state center of the undefeated 1931 state champion Abilene High football team. The Eagles defeated Beaumont 13-0 in the state championship game, played in the new TCU Stadium in Fort Worth. Stanley also excelled on the basketball court and was an honor student and served as class president all 4 years. Like his older brother Altman, Stanley was named one of the 12 greatest linemen on Harold Ratliff's all-time team. Stanley married Evelyn Montgomery, and the two moved to Pullman, Washington, where he continued his football career at Washington State. He was a 3-year letterman and team captain as a senior at Washington State, earning All-American honors. He was offered a position in the NFL with the Brooklyn Dodgers, but he declined as he and his wife were ready to return to Texas. While living in Dallas when World War II began, Stanley enlisted in the U.S. Navy. After basic training in Virginia, he spent the remainder of the war at the U.S. Naval Training Station at Great Lake, Illinois, training newly recruited sailors on duty. After the war, he settled back in Abilene as an insurance adjuster at Perry Hunter Hall. He was president of the Eagle Booster Club in the 1950s during Abilene High's 3 championship era. Stanley was also one of several men instrumental in bringing Little League baseball to Abilene. He served several years as president of the Dixie Little League in its early years. Stanley and his wife had 2 children, a daughter, Christy, and a son, Monty. Christy was the head cheerleader at Abilene High in 1957, and her Abilene High megaphone sits in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame as part of an exhibit honoring Coach Chuck Mosier and the Team of the Century, while her cheerleader uniform sits in the Big Country Athletic Hall of Fame. She married Gerald Galbraith, who played on the Eagles state championship teams in the mid-1950s. The Smith brothers, instrumental in creating the early tradition of Abilene High football, are Legacy Award recipients in the Big Country Athletic Hall of Fame. Accepting on behalf of Smith's family is Jack's daughter, Jackie Smith McKnight.